Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. What if Hinata and Sakura had a battle to marry Naruto? Movie. Heavy snowfall was covering the Tokyo skyline, but for Sakura Haruno and Hinata Hyuga it wouldn't dampen their moods because of recently being engaged to one another. Also, they'd made it more memorable by proposing in front of Sasuke Uchiha, who'd always tried everything to break these two lover birds apart. I can't believe you've proposed to me, Hinata squealed. You better believe it. Anyways, the hard work has only just begun, Sakura explained. What do you mean? Hinata questioned. The first thing would be telling everyone about this joyful occasion, picking the location for our wedding, getting our wedding dresses sorted, sending out the invitations, and that's just for starters. Sakura acknowledged, and Hinata knew that she's right. However, with help from friends and family they'd have the wedding of their dreams. Would it be okay to text everyone and tell them the good news? Hinata questioned. That's not a bad idea. I'll text everyone and ask them to head to my place, if that's alright with you. Hinata nodded to Sakura's question and with that headed over to Sakura's residence. Meanwhile in Hinokicho Park, Sasuke was still awestruck by what he'd witnessed, and knowing his personality was already thinking of revenge. Unbeknownst to him, someone from a distance had witnessed everything and saw the lovebirds walk away. The stranger then headed towards Sasuke to see if he's feeling okay. Are you feeling okay? The stranger cautiously asks. None of your business, Sasuke shouted. What's with the attitude? I'm only asking a question, the stranger explained. Alright, if you must know. I'm angry because two people I despise are engaged and had the audacity to propose directly in front of me. Also, they're the most popular couple within our school and go by the names of Sakura Haruno and Hinata Hyuga. Do you know them? Sasuke acknowledged and then started hearing a loud growl. Oh, yeah. I know them from my old school, and that's before realizing they loved each other. Because of that shocking revelation it destroyed our friendship, any chance of being in a relationship with them, and from that day I've dreamed on getting revenge on those two. The stranger answered. How you plan on doing that? Sasuke wondered. Why you asking me this? The stranger questioned. Because over the last few years, I've tried everything to break them up and nearly succeeded at times but as always failed, Sasuke answered. That's some determination, the stranger whispered. Sasuke became intrigued by this person as they seemed to share many things in common, like wanting revenge on this pair, living within the same megacity and being dedicated into getting whatever job done. However, Sasuke knew that's going to be difficult because he didn't know this person and all attempts had failed previously. Out of nowhere, an idea started coming into fruition, and it involved the pair forming a partnership to stop Sakura and Hinata's wedding from ever happening. Afterwards, they talked about everything in detail, and unexpectedly Sasuke agreed to everything because it's better than anything he could think of right now. Anyways, what's your name? Sasuke wondered. I'm called Karen Uzumaki, and may I ask yours? Karen inquired while moving the hoodie that had been concealing her face. Sasuke Uchiha. And didn't you go to Konoha Academy a few years back? Only because your name sounds familiar. He wondered, and Karen nodded, giving a straight answer to Sasuke's question. We'd better get going. It looks like the snow is about to get heavier, Sasuke explained, and both decided to head off into the night. Meanwhile, Sakura and Hinata had finally arrived at their destination and knew everyone would be waiting for them. Afterwards, they stepped inside and into the living room to see everyone on the sofas. It's good to see everyone here, Hinata happily spoke. So, what's the big news? Temari questioned. Yeah. Totally out of nowhere, we all received messages from Sakura and asking us to come straight away, Naruto explained. Aren't we all thinking that? Hanabi mentioned. No need to rub it in, Naruto groaned with arms folded. Would you both knock it off? Temari instructed. Before I was rudely interrupted by everyone, the news we'd like to make is we're getting married, and here's the proof. Sakura spoke, with Hinata showing the 24-karat gold and diamond encrusted ring to everyone. Congratulations, everyone screamed. Before everyone can celebrate, Hanabi had to be reassured about something and cautiously asks, don't we have to worry about Sasuke? We all know what he's capable of doing. I don't think so. We both took care of him earlier and probably won't be seeing him for quite a while, Hinata answered. I'm hoping you're right. Anyways, when's the wedding taking place? Hanabi questioned while changing the topic. Probably after we graduate, Sakura answered. Does anyone have a problem with that? Hinata wondered and her friends shook their heads from side to side. A few weeks had passed and things couldn't be better for the pair as they planned on enjoying a night out. Meanwhile, at Hinata's apartment she was nearly sorted and looking at herself in the mirror imagined she's foxy Cleopatra. Suddenly, knocking was heard from outside and Hinata opened the door to see Sakura standing there looking beautiful as always. "Hello, Sakura. Why don't you come in and make yourself comfortable? I'm just heading upstairs to finish up," Hinata politely welcomed. "No problem," Sakura acknowledged. After waiting for about 10 minutes, Sakura started looking around the apartment to help cure her boredom and only stopped by the wonderful view in front of her. It was Hinata wearing a long purple dress from head to toe which fit perfectly around her, a black jacket to keep herself warm and black trainers. "Wow, Hinata, you look amazing," Sakura commented. "Aren't you sweet? Anyways, you ready to go?" Hinata wondered and Sakura nodded giving a straight answer to that question. Afterwards, they headed to their first location which was the iconic Tokyo Skytree and what Sakura didn't know was Hinata had organized a little surprise for her. Once they arrived, they took the elevator to the observation deck and it's when something shocked Sakura. "Happy birthday!" Everyone joyfully shouted. How'd this happen?" Sakura asked while fighting tears of joy. "I wanted to surprise you and somehow I booked this whole floor for your 18th birthday. On the other hand, you'd probably forgotten about your birthday with everything that's happened over the last few weeks," Hinata answered and Sakura nodded while wiping away her tears. Afterwards, Hinata asked everyone to look directly at the windows and were amazed when fireworks started exploding in many different directions and colors. Everyone couldn't help but enjoy the fireworks however. Sakura wanted to know how Hinata managed to afford all this so acts out of curiosity. "How could you afford all this?" "Let's just say it wasn't easy. But by taking on many part-time jobs over the last few years it'd help get the money needed. That's how I managed to get the fireworks display and this place booked tonight. Finally, it took me ages to arrange all this without you knowing and I wanted to spend it on something big for the person I love," Hinata answered. "Who's ready to get this party started?" Tamari shouted. Over the next few hours, everyone had a good time listening to different types of music, singing karaoke, enjoying the food and drink available and knowing when to call it quits and head for home. However, for our couple their night wasn't done and leaving Tokyo Skytree behind them, headed for their next destination the Tokyo Dome roller skate arena in Bunkyo, Tokyo which took about 30 minutes. Hinata had always dreamt of treating Sakura to this place because of all the positive reviews the place was receiving from locals and holidaymakers. Walking into the complex, they approached the reception desk. The receptionist kindly asked them some questions which they answered and were finally asked what size rollerblades they needed. "We'll take a size 8 and 11. Sakura answered. Afterwards, the receptionist found the correct sized rollerblades, handed them over to the pair and started putting them on. However, Sakura was having trouble putting them on and with some persuasion managed to get the bastards onto her feet. "What do you think of doing rollerblading with me?" Hinata questioned. "It feels amazing. Also, have you done rollerblading before?" Sakura wondered. "I did some with my family and at junior high in Kumamoto City for school trips a few years ago. However, I haven't done it since moving here and therefore, expect some falls from me," Hinata acknowledged. "Expect that from me too," Sakura kindly explained. Afterwards, the pair headed onto the rink and despite a few falls they're having the time of their lives. Devilishly, Hinata was thinking of doing something to Sakura and when she wasn't looking lifted her up into the air and making it look like she's flying. Sakura couldn't help but feel terrified that Hinata was going to drop her while attempting this. However, that feeling soon subsided and it started being memorable for her. "Will you put my down?" Sakura kindly instructed. "Haha. You can't deny that wasn't an experience," Hinata asked while putting Sakura back down onto the ground. "Some kind of warning would have been appreciated. On the other hand, I'm not going to deny it being an experience," Sakura answered. "That's good. Anyhow, we better get going as it's nearly closing time," Hinata explained because it read 10:45 p.m. on her watch. Afterwards, they walked home to Roppongi Hills and during the journey, they stayed together hand in hand and not letting go until spotting Sakura's house within the horizon. "You've made this a day I'll never forget," Sakura commented. "I'm glad you feel that way. However, I've got one final surprise for you and before revealing it would you kindly close your eyes and not open them until I tell you," Hinata requested. Sakura did as requested and then felt something being wrapped around her neck and when asked to open her eyes, It revealed a 24-karat gold necklace with an aquamarine pendant to represent her birthstone. "It's beautiful, Hinata," Sakura tearfully spoke. "I wanted to buy a special necklace which showed our love can never be broken." Hinata spoke while gently caressing Sakura's face and wiping away her tears, knowing she'll treasure this necklace forever. Afterwards, they kissed and said their goodbyes before walking into the night. Walking onto her street, Hinata wasn't paying attention to where she's going and bumped into someone, causing them to fall. Regaining her composure and getting herself up, Hinata was left shocked by seeing none other than Karen Uzumaki right in front of her. "Are you alright? I didn't mean to bump into you," Hinata apologized. "I'm alright. Hang on a minute, I definitely recognize that voice from anywhere. Does it by any chance belong to Hinata Hyuga?" Karen wondered, and her assumption proved right when seeing Hinata in her view. "It's good to see you," Hinata squealed. "Oh, really? Now get out of my way," Karen shouted, and leaving Hinata shocked by her sudden outburst. "What's with the attitude? I'm only being nice," Hinata defended. "HMPH. Was I asking for your opinion? Anyways, I still haven't forgiven you for what you did to me a few years ago," Karen coldly remarked. "What are you talking about?" Hinata questioned. "You'll find out eventually," Karen threatened before walking away and leaving a shocked Hinata behind. What was that all about? Hinata wondered. Better enjoy your engagement while it lasts, because it'll be the last time you'll love anybody, especially after what I'm about to do to you soon, Karen devilishly thought as she continued walking. Meanwhile, Hinata was lost in thought and was starting to think Karen just used some tactic to get away from her. That's because Hinata knew that Karen wouldn't possibly do anything horrible to her, and pushing that thought aside continued walking home. Finally, Hinata had arrived home, and only after having an unexpected reunion with Karen. For a few minutes, Hinata was thinking into why Karen had behaved the way she did. However, nothing came from it, and like earlier pushed that feeling aside. Out of nowhere, a memory appeared in Hinata's head, and it made her smile because of how everything started between her and Sakura. Flashback. 3 years ago in Roppongi Hills. The Tokyo landscape was something that never stopped amazing people, and with things being discovered every day, that's quite something for one of the busiest cities in Japan. Meanwhile, the sun was appearing over the skyline, and located within Roppongi Hills, it wasn't the sight someone wanted to see today. That someone was a 15-year-old female called Hinata Hyuga, who'd be starting her first day at Konoha Academy. Her family had just moved from Kumamoto City, and it's all thanks to Hiyashi Hyuga being offered a promotion which he accepted. However, it had meant moving to a place she hardly knew about, being transferred to another school mid-term, and saying goodbye to her friends. Waking herself up because of the sun peeking through her windows, she stretched herself and looked at her uniform that arrived yesterday. It consisted of a short white-sleeved shirt, a yellow and black striped tie, gray cardigan, black blazer with the school emblem, and black skirt reaching the knees. Why did this school have a uniform? Hinata groaned. Are you awake? Don't want to be late for school? Hiyashi asked while knocking from outside her bedroom door. I'm about to get myself sorted, Hinata answered. No problem. Hiyashi replied and walked away. Afterwards, Hinata grabbed her uniform and headed for her ensuite bathroom, and it took ages for her to get sorted. Walking out of the bathroom, Hinata looked at herself in the mirror and couldn't deny the uniform she's required to wear didn't look bad on her, and over time could learn to love it. What's taking you so long? Hiyashi questioned. Looking at her watch, Hinata noticed it read 7:30 a.m. and school started at 8:30 a.m. She quickly grabbed her stuff, waved goodbye to her family, and headed to Nagasaka Station to catch her train for Yoyogi Kone Station and walk the short distance to her new school. What's my new school going to be like? Hinata wondered. Time skip. 8:25 a.m. in Konoha Academy. The corridors of Konoha Academy were busy, and for Hinata being new here, it wasn't surprising she's having trouble navigating around the place. Looking at her schedule and not paying attention to her surroundings, Hinata bumped into someone who just happened to be her teacher, Mrs. Tsunade. I should have been paying attention, Hinata apologized. It's all right. Would you happen to be the student who's enrolling here today? Mrs. Tsunade kindly asked, and Hinata nodded. Are you Mrs. Tsunade? Because on my timetable it says you're my teacher, and I'm having trouble locating room 106, Hinata explained. Would you like to follow me because I'm heading there right now? Mrs. Tsunade instructed, and Hinata did exactly that. Meanwhile, Sakura Haruno was sitting behind her desk and was reading a book about dancing, which back in elementary was something she loved doing all the time. However, as Sakura moved into higher education, she began losing interest and tried out new things. Continuing to read her book, Sakura began hearing others talk about a new student, and it made her curious because hardly anyone transfers during the school year. A few rows in front of her was Sasuke Uchiha, and Hida was overhearing about the new student coming to Konoha Academy. Many described Sasuke as a delinquent, barely getting passing grades for assignments, always manipulating others into doing his dirty work, and it's really amazing he's got any friends at all. Finally, behind him was Karen Uzumaki, and she was a bit of a shy person at times. However, that didn't stop her from being friends with Sakura, always working hard to get top grades on assignments and joining the kendo club where she won many tournaments in. Afterwards, something caught everyone's attention when the door opened and Mrs. Tsunade entered with someone behind her. Mrs. Tsunade spoke. "Will you all settle down? I have an announcement to make. We've got a new transfer student called Hinata Hyuga joining our class today, and I want everyone to make her feel welcome here. Why don't you take the empty seat near the back?" Sakura watched as Hinata took her seat and kindly offered her hand for Hinata to shake. "Hello, I'm Sakura Haruno, and it's nice to meet you. I'm hoping we can get along and be good friends." "Nice to meet you. I'm Hinata Hyuga, and I love the idea of us being friends." Hinata smiled as she shook Sakura's hand. Time skip. 4 months later. 4 months had passed and Hinata was loving Konoha Academy, being friends with Karen, Naruto and Tamari, and joining the student council where she didn't mind completing all that paperwork. On the other hand, something was on her mind and felt like she needed to tell someone. Luckily, as she's walking down the corridor, noticed Karen putting books into her satchel and went to talk to her straight away. "Do you mind if I talk to you?" Hinata questioned. "Sure, no problem. What do you need?" Karen wondered. "I'm wondering if you could give me some advice. What if I told you I'm falling in love with someone?" Hinata explained. That statement made Karen blush and her heartbeat to increase. Because when she saw Hinata for the first time, it felt like meeting the women of her dreams from her point of view. However, she'd never had the chance to tell Hinata her feelings, and the reason being is it would be awkward to walk up to someone you've just met and say that you love them. But this didn't deter her and felt like Hinata knew deep down her secret. "Who've you falling in love with?" Karen asked, hoping it's her. "It's Sakura Haruno. I just can't help but feel we're both meant to be together." Hinata answered, feeling a huge weight had been lifted off her shoulders. But as she finished speaking, noticed Karen was looking somewhat different from a short time ago. "Are you feeling okay?" Hinata wondered. "Yeah. Would you excuse me?" Karen requested. Afterwards, Karen walked away and looked back to see Hinata walking in the opposite direction. Once seeing her leave, Karen's heart started to break and felt like she's lost the best opportunity to tell Hinata her feelings. Suddenly, a feeling of jealousy started to awaken within Karen and started feeling negativity towards her so-called friends, thinking they've destroyed her trust and making her want revenge on them. After that painful day, Karen severed all ties to everyone and went back to Sendai, never to be seen again until that fateful reunion years later. Time skip. 2 weeks later in Hinokicho Park. 2 weeks had passed and shock was still on everyone's mind when discovering that Karen had left Konoha Academy and went back to Sendai for undisclosed reasons. Meanwhile, Hinata was enjoying a walk in Hinokicho Park, and it's when she noticed a familiar face sitting on a bench alone. When she approached, it revealed to be Sakura, and it looked like something was bothering her. "What are you doing out here?" Hinata questioned. Sakura looked up and hadn't realized Hinata was standing there. "Oh, hello. I've just got something on my mind." "What's on your mind?" Hinata cautiously asks. How do I put this? I'm in love with someone and scared on what they'll think of me if I told them," Sakura explained. "I've got the same problem. However, before you say anything, may I ask who it is exactly?" Hinata asked and hoped Sakura would answer. "I don't know if I should say, because the person I'm in love with is you," Sakura answered and feared the worst-case scenario. Hinata was gobsmacked by that revelation and asked in case she'd misheard her, "You love me, Sakura?" "That's right. I have for a long time," Sakura quietly spoke. Suddenly, Hinata grabbed Sakura's face and kissed her right on the lips. It made Sakura's eyes widen and didn't bother to resist because it felt nothing but euphoric. Afterwards, they separated and smiled, knowing it's the start of a new chapter within their lives. "Do you want to be my girlfriend?" Hinata asked, and Sakura nodded, knowing nothing would be better than being her girlfriend. Hinata politely offered Sakura her hand, which she grabbed onto, and together knew they're now in a relationship. But what they haven't realized was Sasuke and Akira Tatsushiro, one of his associates, were watching them from a distance. Sasuke was shocked by what he's witnessing, two people he despises becoming lovers, and knew something had to be done to separate them. However, Akira didn't have any problems with them being together and wanted them to succeed. But deep down knew not to judge Sasuke's decisions because of fear and retaliation from him. End flashback. Hinata smiled and felt some sympathy to those memories because it showed the early events of when she first moved to Tokyo a few years ago. Remembering when she'd started at Konoha Academy, where she would met all her new friends and enemies. Also, it helped her to remember on how she and Sakura started their relationship and they're now engaged. Finally, Hinata decided on going to sleep because today had been an endurance and was expecting many more like it. An entire week had passed and Hinata somehow managed to put everything that's happened behind her. On the other hand, today was going to be special for her and Sakura because they'll be buying their wedding dresses. To make things better, they'll be buying them from the best wedding store in Tokyo named Brides to Be within the Ginza district. After taking the train to Higashi Ginza station and walking around the area for 30 minutes, they'd started having trouble finding the place and were getting very agitated. Walking around for another 30 minutes, Eureka! Popped into their heads as they located the shop they've been looking for and walked inside. However, they came to a standstill and their eyes widened by the different types of dresses that were directly in front of them. Knowing they could stare at them all day, they'll have to look through each one and prayed one of them would be perfect for them individually. It looks incredible, Sakura squealed. Do you always have to be this crazy? Hinata laughed slightly. Are you ready to look around? Sakura wondered and Hinata nodded for an answer to that particular question. Afterwards, both walked in different directions to see if anything would catch their attention. Hinata, who'd went to the right, was starting to have trouble locating a dress she'll love in what seemed like hours, but was only a few minutes, found one that'll look fabulous on her. Hinata pictured herself on what she'll like with it on. The dress was dark purple and had a black bow tie wrapped around the waistline. However, that picture soon vanished as she heard someone coming and thought it was Sakura. What do you think of this one? Hinata joyfully spoke when turning. Unfortunately, that feeling quickly dissipated and turned to anger because in front of her was Sasuke, who seemed to be looking for trouble. On the other side of the shop, Sakura was still looking through the vast amount of dresses and couldn't find one to match her personality. However, her search abruptly ended all because of arguing happening nearby, and she quickly realized the arguing was in between Hinata and Sasuke, who were exchanging insults to one another. Knowing she couldn't take any more of her fiancé being harassed, she contacted security and explained to them what's happening back there. You'll never make it to Yo! Sasuke shouted. Would you mind if I interrupt this conversation? What'll make you think we won't make it to our wedding day? On the other hand, I'll be more thankful if you got away from my fiancé. Sakura interrupted. What did you just say? Sasuke asked while turning. What, you didn't hear me? Oh, never mind. Besides, you'll probably be feeling scared right now because I've contacted security about what you've been doing. Sakura confidently gestured. As if it looks like I care. I'm not scared and they're standing behind me, aren't they now? Sasuke gulped and Sakura nodded. Afterwards, Sasuke shivered in fear as he looked back to see security behind him, who didn't hesitate in chucking him out the shop and making him land into some rubbish that was being collected later on that day. Everyone started to laugh at Sasuke's misfortune and security warned him of a worse punishment if he ever decided to come back. That'll take care of him, one of the security guards said. Dealt with him before? Hinata questioned. Both security guards explained that he's been causing trouble here many times, annoying the customers, damaging some of the dresses that had been on display and spraying graffiti onto the walls outside. Looks like he'll never change, Sakura commented. Nope. Anyways, enjoy the rest of your day, one of the security guards said before they walked away from the pair. Once all the drama had settled, Hinata decided to show Sakura the dress she found earlier and Sakura described how perfect it looked. Looking around for another 45 minutes, Sakura at last found something she liked and it consisted of a light pink, silk designer dress and a white ribbon around the waistline. Afterwards, they asked who's in charge if they could try their dresses on and only because to see what they'll look like with them on. Finally, the pair tried on their dresses, which fit them perfectly and went over to the cashier to pay for their dresses. Meanwhile, walking disgruntledly, Sasuke had arrived back home covered head to toe in rubbish and was stinking. He decided on taking a hot shower and prayed that by cleaning himself up it'll drive the smell away. Once showered and fully dressed, he heard knocking coming from the front door. Sasuke answered it, and once he opened the door, it revealed to be his accomplice Karen. "You finally arrived," Sasuke mentioned. Whatever. Can we quickly talk about the idea you've got planned? I really want to go home and get some sleep," Karen groaned. "No problem. Starting on Monday afternoon, I want you to enroll back into Konoha Academy, and timing is everything so that our plan can happen. During Thursday lunchtime, speak to Sakura about wanting to meet someone outside the school gym, and by knowing Hinata's schedule it's when her gym class finishes. When Sakura isn't looking, and in which I like to call a sneak attack, I want you to kiss her directly on the lips. Knowing her personality, she'll be totally surprised by this and it'll take her a while before stopping you. Hopefully, Hinata would have seen everything that happened, dump Sakura for cheating on her, making them cancel their wedding, and our revenge will be complete," Sasuke explained. "Are you sure that's going to work?" Karen cautiously asks. "Of course it'll work," Sasuke answered. After finalizing everything in detail, Sasuke told Karen to go home and get some sleep because from Monday that's when everything will start. Time skip. Monday afternoon. It's now Monday afternoon and lessons at Konoha Academy were in session, with students paying attention to their teachers. Meanwhile, the classroom that Sakura was in heard knocking coming from outside, and Mrs. Tsunade asked them to come straight in. Afterwards, the door opened and they walked into the classroom, and it revealed to be Karen Uzumaki, which shocked everyone. "Would you all pay attention? I'm happy to announce that Karen Uzumaki, an old student here, has decided on re-enrolling here at this school and will be rejoining our class today," Mrs. Tsunade explained. Afterwards, Karen was asked to sit next to Sakura, and when walking towards her seat, she looked emotionless and was avoiding eye contact with anyone. This caused everyone to start having an odd feeling towards her, and it was very strange for it to be happening at all. Sitting down as requested, Karen glanced at Sakura for a brief second and an evil thought appeared. "Only a few days left and our plan will take place. Better enjoy them while you can, because from Thursday you'll be left heartbroken and won't have Hinata by your side anymore." Over the next few days, Sakura told everyone about Karen being within her class, and this made them all wonder into why she's back in Tokyo and re-enrolled back at Konoha Academy after all this time. Unfortunately, nobody could think of any definitive answers to those questions. Anyways, it's nearly Thursday lunchtime and everybody was waiting for the bell to ring so they could get something to eat. However, Karen was thinking of something else, and it was putting Sasuke's plan into action. Sakura? May I ask a favor from you?" Karen questioned. "What do you want to ask?" Sakura wondered. "Would it be possible to take me to the gym because I need to talk to someone about something very private?" Karen explained. "Talk about being lucky. I'll be meeting up with Hinata there, because she'll be finishing gym class shortly and be having her lunch break with me," Sakura answered with a smile. Unsurprisingly, Karen saw her smiling, and what was probably a small lapse of concentration made her think this plan shouldn't go ahead. However, because of Karen's hatred towards her former friends, she pushed that thought aside and went back to her main objective. Then the bell went and the pair headed for the gym while having a slight conversation. "Who's this someone you've got to meet?" Sakura questioned. "I didn't really catch her name," Karen answered. "Oh, it's a woman. Somebody who loves you," Sakura remarked. "Don't be ridiculous," Karen shouted at that allegation. "Finally, we've reached our destination at last," Sakura explained before looking away and waiting for Hinata to exit. Meanwhile, Karen knew it's now time for everything to happen, and when Sakura looked away, she grabbed onto Sakura's right shoulder, which made her turn 180 degrees and planted her lips directly onto Sakura's. As predicted by her accomplice, Sakura was taken by surprise, and it took her ages into pushing Karen away and slapping her across the face. "How dare you? Why did you just kiss me?" Sakura shouted. Before any of this had happened, Hinata had just finished changing into her uniform and then heard a slap echo within her direction. She decided to investigate, and when she peeked through the door, it revealed to be Sakura and Karen doing the unthinkable. Unfortunately, for Sakura it was already too late to change anything, and that's because Hinata heard the dreaded line of Karen kissing her. Hinata spoke in a shaky voice, "Sakura, is this true?" "Thanks.